Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I hope everybody's having a great day. Welcome to Dr. Boyce Daily. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and on Dr. Boyce Daily Stock Market, we talk about what's going on in the markets, where the money exists, opportunities for you and your family, and ways that you can benefit economically from whatever's happening in the world. Today's big topic is the trade war from Donald Trump. Apparently, Trump has went ahead and followed through on his promise to issue a pretty horrible, pretty powerful financial financial attack on other countries, particularly China, Mexico, and Canada. And it's really interesting. It's getting a little bit bloody and getting a little bit crazy because basically these tariffs that Trump has issued have really driven the markets insane. A lot of you saw last night that Bitcoin pretty much crashed. Bitcoin, all the cryptos, Ethereum, all that stuff pretty much went down. And the market is kind of in chaos today. Absolute freaking complete total chaos. In fact, it's in so much chaos that those of you that are in Money in the Morning know that you might have gotten a notification from me early today because we're going to start our class in a little bit. But I said, let me hop in and just kind of talk about this now, because there are some things to kind of discuss. Now, as I begin, I'd like to ask everybody really quickly, can you hear me? Give me a quick yes in the chat if you can hear me. Quick yes. That's all I need, one yes. Make sure my audio is good. Also, hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe. This podcast is on Spotify. So if you look up Dr. Boyce Daily on Spotify, you will find me there as well. So I want to say good morning to Dr. Conrad Bingham. I see you, brother. I always see you, and I respect you so much. Keith Patillo, I know that name. Paul Lashley, Wealth Builder, Norman Harrington, Love Story Mobile, Winery, Julius Williams. I see all of you. Okay, so let's just jump in. Let's get it cracking. Okay, so how many of you, give me a yes or no, have been following this development with Trump and the tariffs? How many of you have been paying attention to this? If you've been paying attention to what's been happening, you'll know that this was very predictable. Everyone knew this was coming. And it's interesting. And the thing is, honestly, I'm even kicking myself because I don't see Trump as a guy who necessarily bluffs all the time. When he talked about the tariffs on Mexico and Canada and the deadline was coming, I didn't think he was going to avert at the last minute. I actually, if you'd asked me on Friday, do you think he's going to go through with it? I'd say, yeah, he probably will, just to show that he's serious. And if I had been listening to myself and thinking this through, I would have bought a lot of put options. I would have, I probably would have sold some call options. But the good thing is that I already do that. I already invest pretty conservatively. Those of you who do stock options with us in the Prime program, that selling call options and buying put options is pretty much a conservative strategy, and we do a lot of that already. So I think hopefully my portfolio is going to have more good than bad as a result of this. Nothing's 100% good, nothing's 100% bad. But this trade war, in case you want to know the details of it, basically Trump has issued a massive tariff, I think 25% on Canada, 25% on Mexico, and 10% on China. And the reasoning behind the tariffs, the reason that Trump is doing this is because he says that basically he's really, quite frankly, just saying you're screwing us. That's pretty much it. He's just saying, you guys suck. You have been letting fentanyl come into the country. You have been letting illegal immigrants come into the country, and we're just not going to tolerate it anymore. So we're going to punish you financially. We're going to declare economic warfare on you until you just get it right, until you change your policies, until you help us. We need you to help us stop the flow of these drugs. We need you to help us stop the flow of illegal people. And then also there's a second dimension to the tariffs that he's making an argument on, which is that the U.S. has a trade deficit with other countries. We have a big trade deficit with other countries. What does that mean to have a trade deficit? Well, the trade deficit pretty much means that we're buying their stuff, but they're not buying our stuff, right? We're buying a lot of Canadian goods. They're not buying a lot of American goods. We're buying a lot of stuff from Mexico. Mexico ain't buying nothing from us. And there's some validity to this. There aren't that many countries where the U.S. has actually a trade surplus. Most countries around the world, the U.S. has a trade deficit. In fact, I'll put up a chart up here real quick so you guys can see this in terms of what's happening. economically globally. And you see here, if you look at this, we have a massive trade deficit with China of about 279 billion. That means if you were to take the amount of stuff they buy from us and subtract it from the stuff that we buy from them, there's a gap of 279 billion. And so Mexico, 152 billion, Vietnam, 104 billion, Germany, 83 billion, Japan, 71 billion, Canada, 67.9 billion, and the list goes on and on and on. Now, what is interesting is that if you want to try to what this looks like, think about the Black community. The Black community has a massive trade deficit with the white community, meaning that if you add up all the stuff that you buy from a white people, and then you add up all the amount of stuff they buy from you, which number do you think is higher? Who buys from who the most? Do we buy from white folks the most, or do they buy from us the most? What do y'all think? Answer in the chat. And so basically that trade deficit, it has some pros and it has some cons. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll kind of talk about trade deficits and in this trade war, and I'll also talk about the broader dynamics in the market. I'll talk about what's kind of happening here, so you guys can kind of decide how you want to proceed, in terms of investing and things like that, or just understanding what's really going on. I think it's important for us to understand what's happening around the world economically. And I want to welcome everybody from Money in the Morning. You guys got the text message a little bit early. We do our morning financial class on economic elevation every day at 10 a.m. Eastern. But today I just decided, you know what, let's get the party started early because we got a big day in the market today. This is just not a normal day. The markets have been rocked. When the markets open in a little bit, it's going to be pretty massive, and ain't a way around it, right? But you all know, if you've been listening to me talk about stock market investing for more than 10 minutes, you'll know that one of my favorite sayings when it comes to the markets and crashes is this too shall pass. If it's something terrible, this too shall pass. If it's something amazing, this too shall pass. Everything passes. So in this particular case, it's the same idea. This too shall pass. And if you want a summary of what I'm doing with my investments, I told y'all my strategy is I buy the dip. Do I know that this is the end of the dip? No, I don't. I don't know if this is the end. What Trump has done is he sparked a trade war. And a trade war means, okay, if a trade war, here's the way that I would describe the Trump trade war. Okay, let me just break it down so we can just understand. It's like I got a homeboy, right? We're friends, but I feel like my friend's been kind of screwing me and using me up, right? My friend's been coming to my house and eating all the food, and he don't never let me eat at his house. Whenever he calls me with a problem, a lot of y'all got friends like this, right? Whenever he calls me with a problem, I sit on the phone and I listen to him tell me about his problems. But when I got a problem, he ain't got time. He's got to go. He's got something to do. Anybody got friends like that, right? Where they call you with their problem, they'll talk your ear off, and then you call them with a problem, they ain't got time to talk. Or let's say that this friend also, I just don't feel like they've been a good friend. I don't feel like they've been a good partner, right? I needed you. I got locked up, and I called you to bail me out, and you wouldn't bail me out. I needed to borrow $20. You told me you were broke, but I loaned you $100, right? Just takers, right? So let's say one day I just say, you know what, man, I'm not gonna be a friend no more. And let's say I just walk up and I smack him, right? I smack him. I say, and look, if you keep on, I'm you know me, I make these goofy analogies, but let's say I smack him, and I'm like, and if you keep on tripping, if you keep on eating all my food, if you keep on disrespecting me, I'm gonna smack you again, right? Now, here's what can happen, right? My friend could say, damn, I'm so sorry. I was a bad friend. I apologize. First, he's going to be in shock. Like, why would you slap me? I'm your best friend, right? Canada's our economic version of our best friend, right? Mexico is our best friend. They're part of NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. So the first reaction of that friend is going to be, man, what are you doing? Like, why would you slap me? I'm your boy, right? And then I'd be like, no, you're not my boy because you've been screwing me, right? And so he could say, man, I'm so sorry. I apologize for hurting you. I won't do it again. Just don't slap me no more, man. Because let's say I'm bigger and stronger than him too. That's another condition. Because America is big and strong. Canada is our best friend, but they're kind of like our wimpy little best friend. Like we're kind of like the economic Debo of the neighborhood. And you know how Trump, some people say he's a bully, and I'm not going to disagree with you because he is kind of bullyish, right? So basically, we're the economic Debo. And they're kind of like Smokey or something, right? On the movie Friday, if you want to know, Smokey from Friday, right? Just kind of skinny, kind of small. So Debo smacked Smokey. Now, Smokey could, to prove his manhood, smack Debo back. But then the problem at that point is it could escalate. Now Debo is going to punch Smokey, right? Because Debo is the bigger person, right? At the end of the fight, Smokey's going to get some punches in, but Debo's going to whoop that ass. Tell me if you get this analogy or if I'm just sounding incredibly ghetto right now. But this literally is the kind of stuff that comes to my mind when I see stuff like this happen. This trade war could escalate. That's my point. So Mexico and Canada, because they don't want to look like punks, have come back out and basically said, hey, yo, look, we can fight. So they come out and they're like, we're going to put tariffs on you. And we're going to do this. Here's the problem, though. That trade deficit is so big. The United States is so much of a bigger trading partner than Mexico and Canada that their tariffs will hurt us less than our tariffs will hurt them. Do you understand? Like their tariffs are going to kind of pinch us, right? It's like, okay, Smokey punches Debo as hard as he can, and Debo's like, damn, that hurt. It felt like a mosquito bite. But if Debo punches back and he punches harder, Smokey's teeth are going to come out, right? He might get brain damage, right? So that's the problem. But still, at the end of the day, here's the problem, though. At the end of the day, if it continues to escalate, you have a friendship that at the end of the day, everybody kind of benefited. You were better off being friends, but that friendship could be fractured for good, right? That relationship is damaged. And I've told you all about the importance of developing good, healthy economic relationships, even if you don't always feel like you're getting everything you want. So some could make the legitimate argument that Trump is wrong, that Trump, that you shouldn't, if you're going to attack somebody, attack China, attack our enemies, don't attack our friends. But Trump is a guy who's basically saying, no, they're not really our friends. They're really frenemies. They're using us, right? And on all this, and all of us have experienced these things, right? All of us have experienced scenarios where someone said they were someone said they were your friend, but you didn't feel like they were really your friend. And someone would say, that's not really your friend. Or that's your girlfriend, but she ain't really acting like your girlfriend. That's not really your man. You just think he's your man. So you shouldn't be loyal to people who aren't loyal to you. But then at the same time, though, this is very dangerous what Trump is doing from an economic standpoint. You see what's happened in the stock markets. Maybe perhaps this is a test. He could be testing to see what the market is doing right now and how bad the market gets and how bad his popularity drops. Because one immediate impact of these tariffs is that you could have some inflation. Goods that come from Canada, goods that come from Mexico are going to cost a little bit more because of the tariffs, a lot more really. And then also you have a really intricate relationship with the U.S. and Mexico and Canada. Their relationship is like the relationship between the heart and the lungs and the kidneys. If the heart smacks the kidneys, well, the heart's still going to feel an effect because they're so deeply integrated. So many American products are made by things that they have to import from Mexico. They need their supplies from Mexico. They have to get their supplies from Canada. They get their stuff from China. So it's going to be a very painful kind of reckoning. Now, here, going back to Debo and Smokey, since y'all seem to approve of that analogy. So let's say Debo smacks Smokey. We're the economic Debo. We smack Smokey and say, you're not being a good friend. And Smokey punches back because he don't want to look like a punk. Then Debo pulls out his fist and knocks Smokey's teeth out. And then Smokey says, okay, I give up, right? And let's say Smokey's like, look, man, I don't want to surrender in front of everybody because the leaders of Canada and Mexico believe in their sovereignty. They don't want to be seen as acquiescing to Trump. But I would suspect that they're probably like, okay, look, I'm going to play tough out front, but I need to talk to you in the back. So Smokey might say, hey, man, I can't bow to you in front of my girl, but can we go talk about this in the back? So they go in the back and they renegotiate a new relationship. And I think that's what Trump is looking for. He's basically saying, let's renegotiate a new relationship. You're not helping us stop the drugs. You're not helping us stop the illegal immigrants. You're not working with us as fair partners. So we're going to keep kicking your ass until you give in. And I think that what's probably going to occur is that you're going to see some adjustments by Canada and Mexico, because even though we lose in terms of inflation, there's no question about it. Tariffs do cause inflation. There could be an argument to be made to say that we could win if they give us concessions on the things that we want. A lot of times when you're talking about negotiation sometimes involves going through some temporary pain to get a longer term benefit, right? Like if your boss isn't paying you enough money and you negotiate and you say, look, I'm going to quit if you don't give me more money. And your boss says, yeah, you'll never quit because you have to work here. And let's say that you say one day you just don't show up. right? If you just don't show up, then he may fire you. He could just stand firm and say, look, you're fired, you're out of here. But if he really needs you, he may call and say, look, let's talk. What do we got to do? I don't know if anybody remembers back when the Dallas Cowboys actually had a legitimate football team. They haven't had a football team in 30 years. They've just had cheerleaders. Good, really, the cheerleaders are better. They should put the cheerleaders on the field other than the players because the players suck. But back when the Cowboys actually had a football team, Emmitt Smith was the best running back on the Cowboys roster. Anybody remember that? Well, Emmitt Smith was underpaid. Emmitt Smith was not getting what he deserved. And so as a result of that, Emmitt Smith said, pay me more money. And Jerry Jones said no. And Emmitt Smith said, fine, I'm not coming to work. Well, Emmitt Smith spent 3 days not coming to work, and the Cowboys lost 3 games in a row. Well, then at that point, Jerry Jones said, hey, let's talk. He gave him more money. Emmitt Smith came in, and they eventually won a Super Bowl. So negotiation is a part of business. That's the point. I'm not saying this is a legitimate move. I'm not saying this is a move you should agree with or disagree with. I'm just saying that these things do happen. And sometimes, you know, if you're Debo and Smokey's not being a good friend, sometimes you have to smack him. I don't know. Again, it's up to you to decide whether you think this is a good or bad move. Now, do me a favor. Please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe if you have not done that yet. Also, those of you who are in Money in the Morning, we're still going to have class today. I just wanted to get started a little bit early today because this trade war thing is so interesting to me. If you want to join class, if you want to join us in the private Zoom, you can do one of two things. You can either pull out your phone, text the word morning to the number 87948 and join us in class. I'll leave that on the screen. Text morning to 87948. Or you can also go to drboyceelevate.com. That's drboyceelevate.com. And I've done about 400 to 500 trainings in our morning class that I think are pretty good. A lot of people seem to like them. So if you want to get all the recordings, all you got to do is go to drboycedaily.com. If you go to drboycedaily.com, you can get all the recordings of every training we've done, and they're yours for life. So feel free to go in there and take a look. All right, so let's talk about the Trump trade war. Let's dig back into this a little bit further. All right, so here's the deal. Trump has put these tariffs on Canada and Mexico, 25% apiece. He also did a tariff on China of 10%. So this tariff that he's put on China is something that was pretty much expected. Canada and Mexico were a surprise. What I want to do is kind of give you some pros and cons of trade wars, because as you know, in economics, very few moves are all good or all bad. In this case, I'm going to give you the pros. I'm going to give you the cons of what's happening with the U.S. in terms of trade. Because here's the deal. The United States tends to run a trade deficit with the rest of the world. We tend to buy more stuff from other countries than they buy from us. If you look here, here's that chart again. China, 279 billion. That's the gap between the amount of stuff they buy from us and we buy from them. The gap with Mexico is 102 billion. So some would argue that we've improved the quality of life of other countries, but they haven't necessarily helped Americans. And the thing with trade wars, or sorry, not trade wars, sorry, the thing with the trade deficit is that the benefit of a trade deficit is that you have access to more goods and services. You can bring more stuff into your country. You can focus and specialize on making the things that you want to make and not have to make everything because other countries are producing the product for you. It can increase the demand for your currency. A lot of you have talked about BRICS. And Trump, and maybe Trump's concern or anybody's concern that the BRICS countries, which stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, that the BRICS countries will form their own currency that will dominate the dollar. That is a legitimate concern. Most experts say, though, that the BRICS phenomenon won't have a real economic impact for another 20 or 30 years. So it doesn't mean that it doesn't matter. It just means that it's not going to matter next week or next month, next year, or even the next 5 years. Okay. But it does increase the demand for your currency around the world because people that you're buying stuff from, you're giving them dollars and they're giving you goods in exchange. Also, you can get a lot of investment inflows, a lot of trade deficits. Here's another thing about trade deficits. Trade deficits have to be financed. Right. It's like if you have your credit card and you're buying a lot of stuff, let's say you're buying more stuff than you can afford, well, you're going to have to borrow money to do that. And so if you look at the U.S. in terms of our debt is a problem. Our national debt is out of control. And so trade deficits can really spiral debt out of control. You pretty much have to borrow from other countries in order to maintain that debt. And that can create capital inflows, which is a good thing, but it can also put you in a tough spot when it comes to dealing with that debt and paying off that debt. Also, the biggest factor here, and this is something that's mentioned a lot in the media, is that trade deficits can reduce inflation. A lot of goods and services that we import from other countries are very, very cheap. And so, and this is the result of globalization. This is a result of buying things from other countries. Now, here's the downside of running a trade deficit like the United States has done. The biggest, and most of you know about this. Tell me if you've seen this. You're going to lose a lot of jobs in domestic industries. If you maintain a trade deficit, which the United States really dug into with NAFTA and participation in the World Trade Organization, or allowing China into the WTO, things like that, you're going to lose a lot of jobs in your country. Well, why is that? Well, because if you're buying stuff from other countries that's manufactured in other places, then you don't need Americans to make that stuff, right? So if anybody is my wife's from Gary, Indiana. Gary has a rich, beautiful history. I said rich. I was trying to mix the word rich and beautiful, so it came out like bitch. Sorry about that. They have a rich, beautiful history, and the thing about Gary is that Gary is a place that has lost some of its former glory because they used to have those manufacturing jobs and they all disappeared. A lot of those jobs are in Mexico and China. And that's probably the biggest problem with a trade deficit, is that even though it costs a little more to buy goods that are made domestically, there is an argument to say you still want to make some stuff in your own community, right? In your own country, right? Like just like with the black people, buying everything from white people may be cheaper and easier. But if you don't support black-owned businesses, then you'll have no economic strength in your own country. You won't know how to make anything. And that's a vulnerability of the black community, as many of you know. If we were ever in a really tough spot, like there's a nuclear war or whatever, or the electrical grid goes down, we would be in big trouble as a community. We probably could not feed ourselves, take care of ourselves. It would be very tough because we don't make anything, right? We were all trained to kind of go to college and work for white people. Also, a trade deficit can increase the debt. We talked about that. You can become heavily dependent on foreign nations because if those nations are exporting goods to you, and then they just say, hey, we don't like you anymore, we're not going to export this good to you anymore, you may be stuck without that thing that you're exporting from other people. That you're importing from other people. It's like jobs. Like basically white folks their companies kind of export jobs to the black community. So if they decided to all take their jobs away from us, we will be in big trouble because we don't have our own internal industries. Also, it can weaken the domestic currency over time, can lead to downward pressure, which makes the imports actually more expensive and actually cause inflation long term. And it can create economic instability if foreign investors just lose confidence in your ability to repay your debts. So if countries ever lost confidence in the U.S. government to pay its debts, you would really see a lot of economic crises on the horizon. But the biggest things probably, I imagine the mind of Trump, are probably the loss of American jobs. He's probably, dreaming about having more manufacturing in the United States. And then also this whole issue of what they're doing at the border. He's mentioned that securing the border was his top priority. And then the last piece about the trade deficits. I think he feels that the U.S. kind of gets punked in that we buy everybody else's stuff, but they don't buy our stuff. And I don't know if that's going to get fixed from this move, but I do know it's going to create a lot of economic instability, and that's going to be interesting. Now, if you don't mind, if you allow me to, I want to mention something that my wife is doing. My beautiful wife, Dr. Boyce Watkins, is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. And she's also the head of our Black Financial Therapy Department. There's never been another Black Financial Therapy Department that we know about at any institution anywhere. What we do is we work with the best Black therapists to understand the psychological barriers to creating Black wealth. And also, we've come to really understand the impact of broken Black families and broken Black marriages on Black economics. If you notice, broken families rarely have any wealth. Right? Stable families are far more likely to be wealthy than unstable families. So when they stole our families, they stole trillions of dollars from us. So one thing Dr. Alicia is going to do is she's hosting something called the Black Love Weekend. And in the Black Love Weekend, and this is all digital, so you can attend from anywhere, she's bringing in some of the leading Black therapists, relationship experts, people that can give you the science on healthy relationships. They can give you the science on how to date properly instead of popping a balloon after 30 seconds because you don't think the man's tall enough. They give you the science behind merging your economics with your relationship so you can make the right choices so that your kids can grow up with a daddy and a mama, or you can have a family that actually gets along. You can get along better with your husband, wife, get along better with your boyfriend or girlfriend, get along better with new people that you pick. Pick the right people to come into your life. She's even bringing in a sex therapist to talk about what's going on sexually in the community and how to do that healthily, right? So anyway, this Black Love Weekend, it's going to be, I think, on Valentine's Day, actually, around Valentine's Day. I don't have the exact date, but if you go to theblackloveweekend.com, you can take a look and decide if you want to participate. I can tell you, she's into this stuff, and this stuff is extremely important when it comes to wealth. And I encourage you to feel free to take a look and decide if you want to attend theblackloveweekend.com. The URL is right there. And also, if you want to get just stuff from Dr. Alicia, you can text that word love to the number 87948. So text love to 87948, and she'll send you information as well. All right, guys. So with that said, let's get back to Trump's tariffs and everything that's going on with this. As you know, the markets are in complete turmoil. Mainly because he's decided to spark a trade war with China, Mexico, and Canada. This is very surprising because this is I don't know anybody who's ever done something like this. Maybe somebody has, but I just haven't seen this. If you want to know about the stock market, here's the deal. I believe this too shall pass. Period. I believe this too is gonna rock the stock market today. If the market's not open yet, it opens in a little bit. It's gonna, everything's crashing, sky's falling, people panic. And here's the deal. Here's the thing I want you to understand too. This may not be the end. This may not be the end. It's like you have those terrorist bombings where they'll bomb a place, and then you go in and you try to clean up. The emergency workers arrive, and then they have another bomb waiting for the emergency workers. You know what I'm talking about? That they'll bomb twice. In fact, if you look up in World War II, the bombing of Dresden was the most horrible thing I ever saw, because literally it was a German town, and they hated the Nazis and all that, right? So they came in and they bombed this town, and it was absolutely terrible. I mean, hundreds of U.S. and Allied planes came and bombed the hell out of this town. And then as the people were trying to recover from the bombing, they came through with hundreds more planes and bombed it again, right? So this could be a double bombing, meaning that if Trump has punched Canada in the face, remember, we're the economic Debo. So Debo punches Smokey in the face, and Smokey says, well, I'm tough too, I'm going to hit you. Well, then Debo might come back and really just knock Smokey the hell out, right? Like Trump has basically said, if you retaliate, then I'm going to retaliate to your retaliation. And he's basically said, look, if you get mad and you try to hit me back, I'm going to hit you so hard that it's going to be ridiculous. So it kind of becomes this crazy game of chicken, and a game of economic chicken, where Trump, I can guarantee you, he probably lost $1 billion in the stock market today himself on paper. So everybody's taking a hit. When a relationship dies, everyone struggles, everyone suffers. So this could get worse. That's my point. This could get worse. This could lead to an onslaught of market declines for various technical reasons. A lot of people invest on margin. A lot of you in here, I know for a fact, are investing on margin. Well, what happens when your stocks drop and you're investing on margin? What do you get in your account? What happens in your Robinhood account if you're investing on margin and everything in your portfolio drops? Answer me in the chat. What do y'all know? I'm curious to see if anybody knows this. You get something called a margin call. Well, when you get a margin call, the margin call basically says you got two choices. You can either put up more cash, or you can sell your stock. Well, if you haven't been prepared for something like this, if you haven't stockpiled cash to take advantage of the buying opportunity, then you might be in a position where you have to sell. And this is why in class we talk about maintaining that cushion, keeping a cushion, so that if something like this happens, you're not going to be faced with a bunch of horrible margin calls. Because what happens for a lot of people is when they over leverage and they've used all their cash to buy stock, and then everything collapses, they have to start selling even more. So the use of debt in the market, the massive use of margin in the market, can accelerate and precipitate a market decline, because even though people don't want to sell, they have to sell in order to simply deal with the margin call. So effectively, this could really escalate. You mix that dynamic with margin calls, with just the sheer emotion of human panic, and how most investors are not long-term thinkers like a lot of you are. We've talked about being a long-term thinker. A lot of people will panic and become traumatized and scared and just start selling like crazy. So basically, this recovery, which I do believe is going to happen, is gonna be one that may take time. That's my point. This may be the beginning of a new era when it comes to the stock market. Um, Bitcoin is, I think that was down to 95,000 or something today. So Bitcoin's been taking a bath also. Um, is it going to recover overnight? I don't know. I don't know. Now, here's the deal. If you are able to look 5 years into the future, then this is Christmas for you. This is Christmas time for you, because you can go buy a bunch of stuff now today for 5-10% less than what you would have had to pay for it last week or on Friday. So when do you start buying, Bernice? That's a great question. I'm buying right now. Because I buy dips. If it keeps dipping, then I'll keep buying. I dip, baby, dip. Just keep buying dips. Why is that? Well, because in the history of the market, if you have a properly structured portfolio and if you are balanced in your investing, then dips eventually come to pass. Eventually, the dips go away, and then you get back to where you were before, and then the portfolio starts to go up. This is not true for every company, but this is true generally for the market as a whole. Also, for those of you that do stock options in Prime, this is why we buy our puts. And if you know, in class, I've mentioned to you all repeatedly that all these good times that we had in 2024, they're gonna come to an end. We've talked about this. We've talked about this a lot. And Ed, am I selling options this week? That's a great question. I am going to sell options, because selling call options is a conservative strategy. That's when you're selling the upside in case the upside never arrives. And one thing I do also, though, Ed, is I don't sell options on all my shares. If you want to learn more about selling stock options and all that, feel free to join us in class. You can go to drboyceprime.com. We got to do a class this week so we can talk about how to handle some of this decline. But yeah, this is serious. This is not temporary necessarily. Every single thing that Trump says is going to impact the stock market. The only thing that is certain going forward, in my opinion, is that you're going to have more volatility. That's it. You're going to have more chaos in the markets. And that's I guess that's Trump's calling card. He kind of creates chaos everywhere he goes, and this is no exception in this case. So so if you guys want to join us in to learn to sell stock options and stuff like that, it's a great way to make income. Feel free to go to drboyceprime.com. And also, I'm going to get out of here because I don't want to lose my voice before we start class. So if you want to join our free daily Money in the Morning class, feel free to pull out your phone, text the word morning to the number 87948. I will send you all a text link to let you all know the class is beginning, and we can all get together soon. So take care, everybody, and I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you all soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.